It was a dark and rainy Friday night. I was working my usual shift as a pizza delivery guy. I had been delivering pizzas for 3 hours straight, and my stomach was starting to cramp. I needed to use the bathroom, but the orders kept coming in. The boss wouldn't let us take breaks on busy nights like this. I grabbed the next pizza order and rushed out the door. The address was a little far, in a quiet part of town where the streetlights were few and far between. As I drove, I couldn't stop thinking about finding a bathroom. Maybe the customer would let me use theirs, I thought, but I knew it was a long shot. When I finally arrived, the house looked dark and eerie. Only one dim light was on inside. I parked the car and got out, clutching the pizza box tightly. The rain was pouring down hard now, and I was already soaked to the bone. I walked up the driveway, my eyes scanning the area. It was then that I saw something move in the bushes near the house. My heart started pounding. Was it just an animal, or was someone hiding there? I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. I was probably just tired and imagining things. Still, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in my gut. I rang the doorbell and waited, keeping an eye on the bushes. The door opened slowly, and a woman in her 30s peeked out. She looked surprised to see me, and I guessed she hadn't expected her pizza so soon. "Hi, your pizza's here," I said, trying to sound normal despite my nerves. "That'll be $15. She smiled and reached into her purse. "One moment," she said, but I could see she was looking over my shoulder at the bushes too. Her face suddenly changed, and she looked scared. "Is everything okay?" I asked, my heart racing again. "Did you see someone out there?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I nodded. "Yeah, I thought I saw something moving in the bushes." She stepped back, her face pale. "That's him. That's my ex. He's been stalking me for weeks." My stomach dropped. I knew I had to act fast. "Do you have a phone? We need to call the police." She nodded and ran back inside, leaving the door ajar. I stood there, feeling exposed and vulnerable, but I knew I had to stay. A few minutes later, she came back with her phone and dialed 911. She handed it to me, her hands shaking too much to hold it steady. I explained the situation to the dispatcher, keeping my eyes on the bushes. The dispatcher assured me that officers were on their way. The woman and I waited, standing close together on the porch, listening to the rain and the occasional rustle from the bushes. After what felt like an eternity, I saw the flashing lights of a police car. 2 officers got out, shining their flashlights around. One of them approached us while the other moved toward the bushes. "What's going on here?" the officer asked. I quickly explained everything, pointing to the bushes where we had seen the movement. The officer nodded and signaled his partner. Together, they advanced on the bushes. Moments later, they pulled out a man who was struggling and yelling. It was clear he was the woman's ex-boyfriend. The woman let out a sob of relief and thanked the officers repeatedly. They assured her that he would be taken into custody and she would be safe for now. The police car drove off, taking the man away. The woman turned to me, tears in her eyes. "Thank you so much. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been here." I smiled weakly, still feeling the adrenaline rush. "I'm just glad you're okay. But, can I use your bathroom real quick?" She laughed, a sound filled with both relief and disbelief. "Of course, come in." As I washed my hands in her bathroom, I thought about how close we had come to something terrible happening. I was just a pizza delivery guy, but tonight I had helped someone in real trouble. It was a scary thought, realizing how many dangers could be lurking in the darkness. When I got back to the pizza place, my boss gave me a funny look. "What took you so long?" he asked. I just shrugged. "Crazy night," I said, not wanting to explain everything. As I headed back out for the next delivery, I felt a little different, more aware, more cautious. I knew I would never forget this night. The dark streets and shadowy corners seemed a bit more threatening now, but I also felt a bit stronger. I had faced something truly scary, and came through it okay. From then on, I made sure to keep my eyes open and trust my instincts. You never know what might be hiding in the dark, and it's better to be safe than sorry. I work as a delivery man, and my shift starts at 10 p.m. It's a tough job, especially at night, but it pays well. I usually deliver food around the city, driving my old car through the quiet streets. The night is peaceful, but sometimes it can be a little eerie. One Friday night around midnight, I got an order from a part of town I didn't recognize. The address was strange, and it took me longer than usual to find it. When I finally arrived, I saw a big old house at the end of a long, dark road. There were no streetlights, and the house looked abandoned. The windows were broken, and the paint was peeling off the walls. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I had a job to do. I parked my car and grabbed the bag of food. As I walked towards the house, I noticed how silent it was. Not a single sound, not even the rustling of leaves. I reached the front door and knocked. The door creaked open by itself, and I hesitated. But then I heard a voice from inside. "Come in," the voice said. It was soft and low, almost a whisper. I stepped inside, and the door closed behind me. The house was dark, with only a few candles lighting the hallway. The air was cold and damp. I walked down the hallway, my footsteps echoing. As I reached the end, I saw a door slightly ajar. The voice came from there. "Bring it here," the voice said again. I pushed the door open and entered the room. It was pitch dark, except for a single candle on a table in the corner. The flickering light cast long, eerie shadows on the walls. I could barely see anything, but I sensed someone was in the room with me. "Where do you want me to put the food?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "Over here," the voice replied. It sounded closer now, almost right next to me. I walked towards the table, my heart pounding in my chest. As I put the bag down, I saw a figure standing in the darkness. It was tall and thin, with long, bony fingers. The figure stepped into the candlelight, and I gasped. It was a woman, but her skin was pale, almost gray, and her eyes were hollow, dark pits. She smiled, revealing sharp, yellow teeth. "Thank you for bringing the food," she said, her voice now raspy and menacing. "Stay a while, won't you?" I took a step back, feeling the fear rising inside me. I have to go. I have more deliveries," I stammered. She moved closer, her eyes never leaving mine. "No, stay. We rarely have visitors. It gets lonely here." My mind raced, thinking of a way to escape. I glanced at the door, but she was blocking my path. Suddenly, I remembered my phone in my pocket. I pulled it out, pretending to check something. "I have to go. My boss is calling," I lied, trying to sound convincing. She tilted her head, studying me. For a moment, I thought she wouldn't let me leave. But then, she stepped back and smiled that eerie smile again. "Very well, but you will come back, won't you?" she said, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. "Sure," I said, not meaning it at all. "I'll be back." I turned and walked quickly towards the door. As I reached the hallway, I heard her laugh. It was a cold, hollow sound that sent shivers down my spine. I didn't look back. I ran down the hallway and out the front door, not stopping until I reached my car. I jumped in and started the engine, my hands shaking. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw her standing in the doorway, watching me with those dark, hollow eyes. I sped down the dark road, my heart pounding. When I finally reached the main street, I pulled over and tried to catch my breath. What had just happened? Who was that woman? I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped something terrible. The rest of the night was a blur. I finished my deliveries, but my mind kept drifting back to that old house and the eerie woman inside. When my shift ended, I drove home and collapsed on my bed, exhausted and scared. The next day, I told my friends about what happened. They laughed and said I must have been imagining